All right, so let's talk War Games.
The Rock says, The Rock, The Rock says,
If you are not already subscribed, if you are not already a member of the Flash family, stop what you're doing and smash the like button, chop the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you are notified every single time I drop a video. Now, without further ado, let's get into the review. All right, so we're going to start out with the Bloodline match. First and foremost, let me just state the obvious here. A lot of people have been talking about how this match was boring. I don't think the show was boring. I think the crowd just wasn't into it. This crowd in Vancouver really felt like it was a Monday Night Raw crowd instead of a major Big Four PLE event. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the way WWE booked and marketed the show, but I would think that at least they would have been hyped up for the Bloodline match, and that would kind of carry them through the entire thing. I mean, they're getting Rhea Ripley, they're getting Io Sky, they're getting Bianca Belair, they're getting CM Punk, they're getting LA Knight. Everyone was there except for Cody. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. So like I said, I'm going to start out with the Bloodline match because this match had the most psychology and character-driven work out of any other match on this card, right? So we start the match out with the same exact story coming out of Crown Jewel, that Solo Sikoa's bloodline is a united front. Even with the addition of Bronson Reed, they come out together. There doesn't seem to be any ego, or at least no egos big enough to go against Solo, given the fact that he's given everyone a chance by bringing them in. They were considered to be outsiders, and he gave them an opportunity to come into the family and rise to the promised land. Whereas on the other side, with Roman, what I found interesting is how people are talking about, oh, the Bloodline are coming out together, or they're not coming out together. Even Solo's, Titantron and all that stuff, even that said the Bloodline. And I've noticed that shows up on SmackDown, that shows up on Raw. Anytime they're all coming out together, generally speaking, unless they're having a match, it'll say the Bloodline. Whereas Roman's was always based off his music. They were the Bloodline, but the Titantron just said Roman Reigns. And the only time they did a thing where I think where the Bloodline was actually used on a Titantron was at a previous War Games. And so having all of these individual mindsets come into it now is pretty interesting. I mean, when Roman would come out, it would be Roman, the twins, Sammy, and Paul. Unless Roman had a match, no one else came out with him. Sometimes Solo Sikoa would, in the latter Roman Reigns bloodline time when he had the title. But generally speaking, the only time they all came out is when Roman's about to cut a promo or they're about to have a full bloodline segment. So this time, it's not just Roman and the twins. It's Roman, Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, and Sami Zayn. They all have had tremendous character development since WrestleMania. We sometimes forget this is not over the course of a year or 2 years. This is over the course of 7, 8 months. So the evolution is there. I mean, if you just look at Jey Uso alone, I mean, I've said it before, his character development, his character growth should be studied by the next generation. And then you add CM Punk. You already have this story of reconciliation, Roman Reigns for his family. And I still think that we are developing more into the story where Roman is going to have to acknowledge his sins, no pun intended. He's going to have to acknowledge what he's done to the family in the past. They won War Games, but I still don't feel like they're as cohesive of a unit. They just showed that they still have chemistry and they're able to work together. So they're just professionals. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're family. So the dynamic between CM Punk and Roman Reigns was immediately told. Now the match didn't start with Paul coming out with the bloodline. He stayed in the back. Why? I don't know. But Roman and CM Punk were glaring each other from the beginning of the match. Once they stepped into, as a matter of fact, once Roman made his entrance, he was just complete, like he was locked on to CM Punk. And so they go into the cage, and you see Roman just side eyeing CM Punk the entire time. CM Punk's oblivious; he has no idea that Roman is looking at him at this moment. And so as the match goes on, Jimmy and Tama Tonga are going back and forth. Now, keep in mind the heels do have the advantage here. CM Punk comes out during his entrance and mushes Bronson Reed in the face while they're in the cage. Given who CM Punk is, I imagine he's just trying to rile up the beast and kind of get that side emotional so they can make a mistake. But this was an approach that you never saw from the initial bloodline. The initial bloodline, OG bloodline, if you will, were very calm and calculated. They never really tried to rile anybody up unless it was through promos. And so throughout this match, it was just this story told of you have complete unity versus fragile dysfunction. Which one is stronger? So Bronson Reed comes in and makes his presence felt immediately, and Jay took a beating in the beginning of this match. After which Jimmy comes out, and then the Usos are there. Now this was cool to have the Usos be the ones to come out back to back, because if you're gonna show unity, you have to start with the tag team first. So when they got into the match, it was a no-brainer that their chemistry would pick back up, and they would begin to take the advantage over Tama Tonga and Bronson Reed, because Tama Tonga is split up from his tag team partner during this time in the match. The third person to come out for the Bloodline is Jacob Fatu. This was a coming out party. I know he's had a couple matches on PLEs and he's done stuff on SmackDown. This guy, the sky's the limit with how they can push him. And I mean, his athleticism, his speed, what he's able to do, he's, aside from Roman, he might be the most impressive performer in this entire Bloodline saga. I don't think anybody's holding a candle close to him. I mean, it's almost, it feels obvious they're going to make him the tribal chief once Solo and Roman have, kind of done their thing and they've moved on to something else. And so after Jacob comes out and we do the back and forth, Sammy is told by Roman to go to the ring, right? The clock goes down. CM Punk thinks, okay, I'm going to go out into the match. Roman stops him. Roman puts his arm in front of him, blocking him from exiting the cage, and tells Sammy to go. Very similar to what he did back in their first War Games match when he stopped Jimmy from going out and told Sammy to go. So that was raising up the tension between Punk and Roman. At this point, it's just Roman and CM Punk in the cage. So it's like, okay, should they be talking right now? Should they be having a conversation? Should they be strategizing? It showcased that there was no real strategy going into this because they weren't even able to coexist 2 feet away from each other. So time runs down and the cage opens again. Roman is making his way out of the cage and CM Punk just brushes past him and takes Roman's spot. So Roman has to stand there watching his family fight by himself alone. That was, I don't know if that was a story beat that they were trying to hit. Maybe they were just trying to say CM Punk is not going to put up with Roman's BS. But that one struck me because I'm like, okay, there's no one else around. The only 2 left are Roman in his cage and Solo in his cage. The two tribal chiefs are the only ones standing at the top of the stage. Solo was able to go down first. Geniusly, he locks the cage. So now it's 5 on 3. No, excuse me, 5 on 4. And the new Bloodline are wearing the OG Bloodline out. Like they just laid out. Then Roman comes out. He comes down. He's asking for the key to the lock, which I'm pretty sure the ref won't have because I believe that Solo brought his own lock and key. And so Roman's like, all right, how am I going to get in here? He's shaking the cage. He's shaking the walls. And he decides to climb up over. I ain't never seen Roman just be athletic like this. The man that climbed over the top of the cage, fought off the new Bloodline, goes to the closest turnbuckle and hits a cross body. This bloodline showing that they've been in a bag. All right, you got Roman doing crossbodies. You got Jimmy Uso doing whispering the winds. Basically, I'm like, bro, where was all this at? Hold on. So y'all just reversed in time, like y'all just getting younger. Y'all on that Rey Mysterio juice, huh? And so from this point on, it was story beat into a spot. Story beat into a spot, as Roman matches normally go. They're very slow paced until everything gets started. Now, once the OG bloodline, the new bloodline split into two different rings, Roman and CM Punk face each other, and they're finally starting to have their face-to-face moment. Enters Paul Heyman, enters the wise man. He comes down, and with a perfect shot, Paul Heyman is saying, hey, look, Tribal Chief, best in the world. Best in the world, Tribal Chief. We got to come together because if we don't, we are going to lose. This is not about you or you. This is War Games. And as soon as he says that, ding, 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 let the War Games begin. It was very beautifully set up. And so, you know what I mean? Like Paul and Roman pay so much attention to the small details when it comes to booking their story. It's incredible. And so Roman and CM Punk are like, okay, we're going to do this one time and one time only. Let's end this thing. They go and they begin to have what you expect this match to be. There was a spot that everyone's talking about where Roman gets laid onto a table. Bronson Reed goes up to the top of the cage. Somebody said online that that Bronson was for sure gonna do a tsunami off the top of the cage. I was like, okay, I think he'll go for it, but he's not gonna hit it. No one's gonna take that bump. He didn't hit it. He didn't hit Roman, right? So he's laying on the table. Bronson goes up. Everyone's around him is laid down. Bronson goes to hit the tsunami. CM Punk jumps up and pulls Roman off of the table, literally just in the nick of time. Almost like the buddy cop was saving the other cop from an explosion. Like storytelling, it was like watching a combative movie. So after this moment, Roman's like, okay, I can trust this guy at least for right now. He helps up CM Punk, and again, here comes Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu super kicks CM Punk, and he's going crazy. Now, I think Jacob, right before this moment, injured himself going for his double springboard. I think it's double springboard moonsault. His leg got caught, or he missed his footing. And I don't know if this was a work, because in the post-match interview, it was confirmed that Jimmy injured himself. It's a rumor that Bronson injured himself off of the splashes from the top of the cage. But there was no official report with Jacob Fatu. Now, mind you, Jacob Fatu had a leg issue that was, I think it was an on-camera thing where he wore a boot. I don't know if it's the same leg. I don't know if this is a callback to that. Who knows? But after all this is going down, going over to the next one, to the next ring, Jimmy has Jacob laid on the table, and he goes up to the top of the cage and hits a Uso splash through the table onto Jacob Fatu, breaking his toe in the process. They wrestled in forces, and from the angle of it, it didn't look like he would be able to break his toe from that based on how he landed. But I'm not a wrestler. I wasn't there. I don't know. I'm just a fan. So yeah, get well soon to everyone in this match, because this one was a complete masterpiece. I've watched the match about 2 or 3 times now, and after the emotion has gone away, it was just a masterclass on storytelling, one that makes you want to tune in to Raw and SmackDown to see what CM Punk is going to say and what Roman is going to say next after this match. At the end of it, the Bloodline surround Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa is defiant in his surrender. As a matter of fact, he's not going to surrender. He says, I'm still the damn tribal chief. Goes for a Samoan spike on Roman, only to eat 3 super kicks from the Usos, a haluva kick from Sami Zayn, a GTS from CM Punk, and of course, a spear from the OTC 1, 2, 3. Roman pins Solo, and the OG Bloodline wins War Games. Even after the match, the celebrations, Roman is on one side of the ring, Punk is on the other side of the ring. The OG Bloodline come over, they hug, they embrace, they show love. They then go over to CM Punk without Roman, and they embrace CM Punk. Roman won't even entertain the thought of it. When they all come back together in the center of the ring, Roman looks at CM Punk. They come face to face. CM Punk shakes Roman's hand, and it seems like they've buried the hatchet, at least just for that moment. Like the contract has been fulfilled. Now we go about our separate ways. But the question is, CM Punk after the match goes up to Paul Heyman, and he said, "I did this for you, but when I need that favor, I'm going to come ask." Everyone hugged Paul Heyman after leaving War Games, except for Roman. Roman just gave a head grab in acknowledgement, and I guess his version of embrace, which I can't really say that because he did hug his cousin just a second ago, and he just walked off. Now, Paul looks as though he understands what that means. By the acknowledgement alone from his tribal chief, he feels loved, he feels fulfilled in his duties. But what I'm curious about is what could that possible favor be, number one? And number two, what is Roman's psyche now? Does Roman actually trust Paul? That's the interesting thing because we've never seen a situation. We've always seen Roman's undying trust to Paul because Paul is undyingly loyal to Roman. But what happens when Roman feels that he's no longer loyal? As a matter of fact, when he questioned it that one time with Brock Lesnar, he Superman punched Paul. Now, I don't know if that was a plan because, a few nights later, he did wind up screwing Brock Lesnar out of the championship by asking Paul to give him the title belt. So I don't know if we're kind of going off that again, but yeah, I want to see what this is going to look like now with everything that's happened to Roman from a psychological standpoint. Now he has to question his wise man. Ooh, and Roman already got trust issues. So this PLE had so many different points about it that I don't really see why people talk about how the matches weren't good. I mean, you got a title change and Shinsuke Nakamura defeating LA Knight to become United States champion. Something that I said should happen. I honestly can't believe that it did happen, but I feel like LA Knight is a character that is better chasing the title and then holding it for a short amount of time and then losing it and then chasing it again. He's a chaser, but I feel like once he gets the title, and this is no fault of his own, there's not really much left to kind of get behind. I feel like I kind of find myself almost rooting for the heel in the situation. I like LA Knight. I think he's very entertaining. I think he's a great promo. I think he's decent in ring. But when it comes to a story in his matches while he is champion, it's just not as, it's hard for me to get as behind him as I would be if he didn't have the title and he was going for it. Now, Shinsuke Nakamura, I am hoping this is a resurgence for him. This is the first, I think this is his first title run under Triple H's regime. So I want to see what this looks like on the SmackDown mid-card side. And with him being the new United States champion, is there a Japanese, I wonder, is there a Japanese female wrestler on SmackDown that can kind of have like a comparison and contrast with Shinsuke? Because I mean, originally, when Shinsuke and Asuka won the Royal Rumble back in the day, I wanted to see two Japanese wrestlers hold the top titles for the men and for the women in WWE. Vince wasn't gonna let that happen. Oh, how naive I was. But Triple H is different. So I don't know if this could be something that could go into that. And I'm interested to see what that looks like. Now, speaking of coming out parties, we already know how great Braun Breaker is. Braun Breaker, to me, is the second coming of Brock Lesnar. The impressiveness, the athleticism, the speed, the power, he has everything going for himself, and he doesn't have a mouthpiece. He can talk for himself on the mic. I mean, besides from a nostalgia pop and just from the aura that is Brock Lesnar, I don't think we really need him in the WWE because everything that he can do, I mean, besides just bare, straight up strength, lifting up, the Big Show and tossing him around and stuff like that. But Braun's speed makes up for where he may lack in the strength department, if there's even that much to really compare to. And he showcased that great here. Sheamus was my favorite to win this match, even though I knew Sheamus wasn't going to win. I just wanted to hold on to the chance of maybe he would. And what I find interesting about Sheamus right now is I feel like his story is the fact that he hasn't won the Intercontinental Championship. He's done everything else, and at his age, he's kind of started to fade out. He's on the other end of his career. And so if the story is I haven't won the IC championship, if and when he finally does he go after a storyline of I'm going to hold this title until I don't, and when I don't, I'm done? I think that works for somebody like Sheamus. But Ludwig Kaiser, I feel like, is a great heel to go up against Sheamus. He's polished. He's debonair. He's very proper, if you will. But he has that, and people have said it before, that James Bond villain-esque aura to him. And I think that is a perfect contrast to a hard-hitting Irishman that is Sheamus. So their chemistry is always great, and it was even better here. But with the addition of Braun Breaker's speed and spontaneity, with how he's able to hit you from any different angle, it made it for something that Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser kind of canceled each other out. And even in moments where Sheamus almost picked up the win, Ludwig Kaiser was always there to be the foil in that plan. So it's easy to see that those two guys are going to continue their feud because for whatever reason, Ludwig has this obsession with retiring Sheamus. And to be honest, I don't think that Braun really needs the IC championship right now. I mean, I get it. Keep the title on him because he's the most defining mid-card wrestler right now on Raw, in my opinion. But I thought the guy's world championship caliber already. So I'm just waiting for him to pull the trigger and have him drop the title so he can move on to bigger and better things. I wanna give Gunther his flowers for a second because Gunther is one of those heels that has a moral code, right? In his match against Damian Priest, Damian showcased that he in fact did get into the head of Gunther. He targeted his insecurities about the loss that he took to Cody Rhodes in Saudi Arabia, which no one knew mattered as much as it did, right? And so he targeted that, and he showcased that you don't have that killer instinct. You don't have that aura. You don't have that legend behind you that you once did. And I feel like you've lost yourself. And so Damian tackled that even in this match. And for a good bit of it in the beginning, he was the better wrestler here. He was a better wrestler than the ring general himself. It wasn't until a injury angle where I think Damian went for a flapjack or a over the body drop, and he kind of messed up. He's kind of tweaked his shoulder a little bit, and Gunther saw that. He took full advantage of it, and so that was the story of the match the entire time. He did so much damage to it that he wasn't able to hit the Razor's Edge or is it called the Broken Arrow? I think it's the Razor's Edge onto Gunther. And so if he can't hit his finisher, what can he do? He even went for a South of Heaven, and his arm just kept giving out. So with targeting the arm and how strong and how vicious Gunther is, if you're injured in a match fighting him, there's blood in the water, and he's going to become the ultimate shark. But Damian fought through and almost picked up the win until he rolled outside and got taken out by Finn Balor once again. I will be so glad when their feud is done. They're dragging this thing on way too long. And so Gunther wasn't having that because every single time he has a big match where he needs to prove himself, someone comes in and tries to break it up or tries to interfere not on behalf of Gunther, but to further a feud that he has with Gunther's challenger. Like when he won the championship, some could say it was because of Finn Balor. So Gunther got the ring. He put all into that and shoved his boot into Finn's face, taking him out completely. Then he goes in the ring. hits a power bomb on Damian Priest, hits a sleeper hold with the damaged shoulder locked in, and Damian had no trouble but to pass out, but he didn't tap out. And I think that always need to be pointed out because there's always a honor left within the challenger who passes out because of the pain. It's the same thing that Stone Cold did back at, I don't remember what WrestleMania it was, but against Bret Hart. And then we have the women's War Games match. Now, in comparison to the men's, it was lackluster in the sense of the stories wasn't as strong, but there were still stories involved. You still had Bianca having some sort of bidding or budding feud, possibly with Rhea Ripley. You have Bianca not really liking Bayley. You have Naomi trying to be the mediator between Bianca and Bayley, and then you have Io Sky, who had a lot to do with Bianca in the early part of the year, and Bayley just beat Io for the women's championship at this year's WrestleMania. So everyone had this negative history on the babyface side. On the heel side, well, you got Liv Morgan and Nia Jax, who really don't like each other. They've gone on record on TV saying that. In fact, even they just had a match at Crown Jewel where they was competing for the most important title in Saudi Arabia, whatever they were calling it. You have Raquel Rodriguez, who doesn't matter. You have Candice LeRae, who's trying to get in the good graces of Nia Jax, much like a Sami Zayn did to Roman Reigns when he tried to get into the bloodline. And then you have Tiffany Stratton, who is already the bestie to the women's champion, so she don't really like Candice LeRae. So there's all these different elements, and then you throw on the fact that Jade Cargill was taken out, and we don't know who did that. There's speculation that it could have been Bayley, but here's my thing: what would Bayley have to gain by taking out Jade Cargill? I mean, yeah, there's been this back and forth about how we don't trust you and yada yada yada, but what is the actual benefit? Because if I take you out, and that means I now have to go into War Games, I got the losing side here. I just took you out to join gang warfare. For what? And that completely disrupts the chemistry of the match, because Bianca had every plan and intention of going into this match with her tag team partner, the other half to their tag team championship team. But now you take her out. Bianca could be out of her element when it comes. Well, she's a single superstar, but she's out of her element when it comes to this tag environment, and so that can mess up her chemistry with the rest of the team. To me, it doesn't make sense why Bayley would be the one. And so this match was pretty much, they didn't really tell the stories of that for real, except for one time when Bayley and Io Sky kind of came face to face. But that was a quick little, like, okay, I saw that, now we move on. Comparing it to the men's War Games match is just not fair. The spots were just two totally different things, and the story made the spots even cooler. But this was, I don't know, I feel like this was a match that was pretty much just set up for Rhea's feud with Liv Morgan, because those two had the most chemistry when it comes to a story perspective. So Rhea comes out with this dope protective mask on. It looks like a demon's head, and so she's wearing that, and she uses it as a weapon throughout the match. What I found to be cool is when it was time for Liv Morgan to come out, she takes the mask off, and Liv goes and gets a bat, and they're face to face. And of course, Rhea is always gonna get the upper hand on Liv. As a matter of fact, she hits an avalanche riptide through the table for the win. Now, with her winning this match, can we finally get the end of this feud? I don't want this to go on to WrestleMania. Unless we're going to get a match between Rhea and Dom, can we just end it? Okay? I don't think the injury that Rhea suffered is as big as maybe we thought it was, because she's back and she looks great. She didn't miss a beat. Nothing seemed to slow her down. She can see fine. So, I mean, there's no purpose, and I feel like keeping the championship on Liv Morgan any further. She doesn't really need the championship to have the relationship with Dom, to have the relationship with Raquel. So she can move on maybe into the mid-card, and if you were to put her into the tournament for the Intercontinental Championship, you can just put the title on her, and now she can kind of do the whole Intercontinental thing. You know what I mean? Or just put her as maybe she could be the first challenger for whoever wins the Intercontinental Championship, right? So just end it already. Like, can we please just get real, beating Liv once and for all and become the Women's World Champion again? And that's it for Survivor Series. I didn't think it was that bad of a show. Again, the crowd for me really kind of made it feel a little bit flat. The men's, both War Games matches were great. I mean, EO doing anything off the top rope in a trash can is amazing. And then her and Tiffany Stratton doing it in stereo. Like seeing Tiffany do a swanton off of the top of the cage, chef's kiss. So for those reasons, the women's match was great. But the match of the night, obviously, was the Bloodline match. It had so much storytelling, so much little small innuendos, so many callbacks that I'm still excited, and I don't know how they do it, but after 4 years, almost 5 years, I'm still excited for any time the Bloodline is on my screen. And this is just, this is just me taking my hat off to the masterful storytelling of everyone involved, right? But as far as the matches that didn't take place inside of War Games, I gotta say that triple threat match was great. Now, was it a glorified Raw main event? Maybe, but who cares? You put those three combinations of superstars together and you throw a title on the line, I will watch that for weeks on end. These guys have probably the best chemistry in the mid-card on Raw. So down below, you guys let me know what y'all thought about Survivor Series. Let me know what you think CM Punk's favor is. I think that's the biggest question coming out of Survivor Series. So let me know what you guys think about that. And as always, I'll see y'all down the road. And be safe, be blessed, be kind. Peace.
The Rock says,